The human's ship fell from the sky like a dying star. Fire wrapped around the small escape pod as it crashed into the thick alien jungle of Varaka. Inside it, Jake held on tight, his knuckles white, his heart racing. He didn't know where. He had landed, only that the main ship was gone, and he was alone now. Smoke filled the pod as it hit the ground and rolled, breaking trees and rocks along the way. Then everything stopped. Silence. Jake coughed, blood on his lips, pain shooting. Through his leg, he opened the hatch and crawled out, every breath sharp and heavy. The air was thick and warm, full of strange scents. He dragged himself across the dirt, trying to find shelter. His vision blurred, and he barely noticed the large dark shape watching him from the shadows. The creature didn't move. It just stared with glowing yellow eyes, hidden in the leaves. Jake found a cave and collapsed inside, unconscious. Hours passed, or maybe days. When he opened his eyes again, he expected to be dead, but instead, there was food beside him, berries, some kind of meat, and a leaf filled with water. He looked around, confused. Someone or something had helped him. He tried to stand but fell again. Then he heard the low growl. He turned and saw it fully. For the first time, a giant beast, twice the size of a bear, with thick black fur and sharp claws. It had horns like twisted branches and eyes that glowed like fire. It was the Kralith. Jake had read about it in old alien reports, an apex predator, feared by all. No one had ever tamed it. No one had ever survived it. The Kralith didn't attack. It simply sat near the cave entrance, guarding, watching. Jake spoke softly, even though he knew the beast wouldn't understand. "Thank you," he whispered, voice shaking. The beast tilted its head, almost like it was listening. Deep in the jungle, someone else was watching too. A young alien girl named Sira crouched behind thick trees, her breath held tight. She was a scout for her tribe, sent to check for danger after hearing the Sci-Fi crash. When she saw the Kralith near the human, she was sure it would eat him. But now she saw something impossible. The beast had not killed the man. It had fed him. Sira's eyes widened as she watched the human reach out slowly. The Kralith sniffed his hand but didn't bite. Instead, it lowered its head, letting the human touch its fur. Her heart pounded. No one in her tribe could even get close to that beast. It had killed their best hunters, broken steel traps, and crushed bones like twigs. Yet this human, it looked weak, injured, small, and the beast had accepted him. Sira whispered to herself, "This must be a trick. Some human magic." But deep down, she felt something was different. Back in the cave, Jake tried to stand again, this time leaning on a stick. The Kralith helped him by pressing its body close so he could balance. Jake laughed, even though it hurt. "You're smarter than they think, aren't you?" he said. The beast blinked slowly, calm and patient. That night, as the moons rose over Varaka, Sira stayed hidden in the trees. She watched the man share his food with the beast. Even though he had little, she saw the way the creature looked at him, not with hunger, but something like trust, and that made her shiver. Because if the Kralith had chosen this human, everything her people believed was now a lie. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the forest. Another predator was near, a large scaled beast with razor teeth. It leapt from the bushes toward the cave, claws ready to kill. Jake turned in panic, but before he could move, the Kralith charged. With one powerful swing, it knocked the predator away, growling louder than thunder. The fight was quick, brutal, and when it was over, the scaled beast lay broken. The Kralith stood tall, chest rising and falling, guarding Jake like a loyal soldier. Sira covered her mouth, stunned. The beast had risked its life to save a human, not for food, not for control, but for something else. In that moment, Sira understood. This man was different, and whatever bond he had with the Kralith, it was only the beginning. Sira ran back to her village as fast as her feet could carry her. Her heart was still pounding from what she had seen. The great Kralith, the untouchable beast, had protected a human like a friend, no warrior in her. Tribe would believe it unless they saw it with their own eyes. She burst into the council tent, breathless, dirt on her face and leaves tangled in her hair. The elders looked up, confused by her panic. "I saw it," she gasped. "The Kralith has chosen a human." Whispers filled the room like buzzing insects. An old warrior laughed, shaking his head. "That is not possible," he said. "That beast bows to no one." But Sira didn't smile, didn't blink. "He touched it," she whispered. "It brought him food. It fought to protect him." The room grew cold. If her words were true, everything they knew about the Kralith would change. They sent scouts to watch from a distance. But no one dared approach. They hid in trees and behind rocks, watching the human move beside the beast. He was walking now, leaning on a stick, his body weak but getting stronger. The Kralith never left his side, its head low, its eyes alert. When Jake rested, the beast stood guard. When he moved, it followed like a shadow. Back at the cave, Jake was learning too. He watched the beast's movements, the way it sniffed the air before danger. He fed it small pieces of dried meat, speaking softly each time. The bond between them grew stronger, not through force, but through trust. He even gave it a name. One he whispered with a tired smile. Shadow. The alien scouts returned with stories that spread like fire. Some said the human had magic. Others feared he was cursed. Many wanted to kill the beast before it became too strong. But none were brave enough to face it. Sira stood before the council again, asking to go back. "I want to speak with him," she said. "I want to know how he did it." They allowed her to go, but warned her not to step too close. She walked for hours through the jungle, her hands shaking, her mind full of questions. When she finally reached the clearing near the cave, she stopped. Jake was sitting on a rock, the Kralith beside him like a giant shadow. Sira called out softly, afraid to spook the beast. Jake looked up, surprised, but not afraid. He raised his hand in greeting, his smile gentle. Sira stepped forward slowly, her eyes never leaving the beast. "You're not like others," she said, keeping her voice low. Jake shrugged. "I don't want to hurt it," he replied. "I think it knows that." Sira nodded, still confused. She watched as Jake placed his hand on the beast's fur. The Kralith didn't move, didn't growl. It accepted the touch like it was normal. Sira crouched nearby, watching in silence. "How did you do it?" she asked. "How did you make it follow you?" Jake looked at her, then at the beast. "I didn't make it do anything," he said. "I just listened, and I waited." Sira didn't understand, but she felt something shift inside her. This man was strange, but honest. And the beast was not chained, not forced. It stayed because it wanted to. A few days later, a group of hunters arrived, their weapons sharp, their voices loud. They surrounded the cave, shouting threats. They believed the human had captured the Kralith using tricks or poison. Jake stepped forward, raising his hands. "I didn't trap it," he said. "But if you don't believe me, test it." The hunters looked at each other, confused. Jake pointed to one of them. "Try to make it follow you." The hunter stepped forward, holding out meat and speaking in a calm voice. The Kralith didn't move. Another tried, then another. But the beast growled, showing its teeth. One man raised his spear in panic, but Jake stepped in front of the beast. "Don't," he said firmly. The Kralith let out a low growl, not angry, but warning. It was clear none of the others had its trust. Jake turned to the crowd, his voice quiet but strong. "I never tamed it," he said. "I just treated it like a friend." Sira watched everything, her heart heavy with questions. Why did the beast choose him? Why didn't it kill him like the others? What made this human so different? And deep down, one question echoed louder than all the rest. What if the beast wasn't the one that changed? What if it was Jake who awakened something lost? As the sun dipped low and shadows stretched across the jungle, Sira stood beside the human and the beast. She didn't know what would happen next. But one thing was certain. The old ways were breaking. And this strange bond between human and predator was just beginning. Sira returned again the next morning. Not with fear this time, but with curiosity. She brought no weapon, no shield, only questions. Jake was sitting by the river, splashing water on his face. The Kralith stood a few feet behind him, still. Quiet, like a shadow made of muscle and fur. When he saw Sira, he smiled, that same tired but kind smile that confused her. No human smiled like that after facing death. Most would scream or run, but Jake just kept sitting, calm as the river itself. Sira stepped closer than before. Her eyes meeting the beast's. It didn't growl, didn't even blink. She could feel. Her heart beating faster, but she didn't stop. "Why does it follow you?" she asked. Jake looked at the beast, then back at her. "Maybe it's lonely," he said. "Maybe I am too." That answer stayed in her head. Even when she didn't want it to, she sat down across from him, the river between them. She didn't trust him fully, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear now. Jake showed her how he fed the beast small pieces of dried food. He never forced it, never raised his voice. He only watched, waited, and offered. And the Kralith always came to him, slowly, carefully, like it was making its own choice. Sira had never seen anyone treat a beast like this. Her people used cages and spears, ropes and fear. They saw animals as enemies, never as partners. But Jake was doing something else entirely. He told her stories while he worked, simple ones about Earth, about dogs and horses, about how humans had lived with animals for thousands of years. He told her about his grandfather, a man who tamed wild things with nothing but patience and time. As he spoke, the Kralith lay down beside him, like a giant cat, tail twitching slightly. Sira couldn't believe her eyes. It looked relaxed, even comfortable. That evening, she helped him collect fruit and water. She noticed how Jake limped, his legs still not fully healed. The Kralith sometimes nudged him with its head, letting him lean on its massive body. It was gentle, careful not to hurt him. Sira had seen that same beast rip through armored hunters without mercy. Now it was acting like a loyal companion. She stayed longer than she planned. When the sky turned dark, she built a small fire with him. They ate quietly, the flames dancing in their eyes. Then Jake turned to her with a serious face. "Why did you really come back?" he asked. Sira didn't answer right away. She stared at the fire and finally said, "Because I wanted to see if it was real." Jake nodded slowly. "I thought I was dreaming too," he whispered. "The first time it didn't kill me." That night, a loud rustle came from the trees. Sira stood quickly, pulling a small blade from her belt. Jake grabbed his stick, ready to protect himself. But the Kralith stood first, its ears twitching. A second later, something leapt from the darkness, a jungle beast with long claws and snapping jaws. Sira froze, but Jake didn't move. He just said one word, soft but clear: "Shadow." The Kralith roared and charged, slamming into the attacker with full force. The two creatures clashed in a blur of teeth and roars. It lasted only moments, but it felt like forever. When it ended, the enemy beast lay still, and the Kralith returned to Jake, blood on its fur. Sira couldn't speak. The Kralith hadn't just protected Jake, it had protected her too. She looked at Jake, who was gently stroking the beast's side. "You didn't train it," she whispered. "You didn't control it." "No," Jake said. "We just understand each other." Sira sat back down, heart pounding. She didn't know what scared her more, how deadly the Kralith was, or how gentle it could be. She began to wonder if maybe everything her people believed about predators was wrong. If one beast could change, maybe others could too. Maybe this human had found something they had all forgotten. Something older than fear, older than war. A kind of peace that needed no chains, no blades, just respect. She stayed the night near the fire, watching the Kralith breathe slowly beside Jake, and as she closed her eyes, one final thought drifted through her mind like a whisper: if this is real, then everything is about to change. The village buzzed with fear and arguments as word of the human spread. Sira's people had never seen the Kralith calm before, never seen it sit like a loyal guardian. Many believed it was a trap, that the human was using poison or forbidden tricks. Others believed it was a sign. Something sacred and ancient waking after years of silence. The council met in secret, their voices low and sharp like knives. They could not ignore the rumors. If the human had truly bonded with the apex predator, he could not be left alone. They sent a message to Sira, summoning her back. She left Jake's camp early in the morning, promising to return. As she entered the village, all eyes turned to her. Some stared in anger, some in wonder, some in fear. The council asked her to speak, to tell everything she had seen. Sira stood before them, her voice calm but firm. She told them about Jake's patience, about his kindness, about how the beast protected him. One elder slammed his hand on the table. No beast would ever choose a human unless it was cursed, he growled. Another elder leaned forward, eyes narrow. If he truly did nothing to bind it, let us test him. That night, a group of warriors left the village, armed with spears, chains, and stun tools. They marched toward Jake's shelter, ready to prove he was lying. Sira ran ahead to warn him, breath burning in her lungs. When she arrived, Jake was sitting with the Kralith, sharpening a small tool made from bone. He stood quickly as she burst from the trees. "They're coming," she said. "They want to see if the beast obeys only you." Jake looked tired, but not afraid. "I've got nothing to hide," he said. "Let them come." The warriors arrived before sunset. Their leader stepping forward with a cold look, he raised his voice so all could hear. "Step aside, human. We will test the beast." Jake nodded and moved away from the Kralith, holding his hands up. "I won't stop you," he said. "But don't hurt it." One by one, the warriors tried. They offered food, used soft words, even strange glowing stones meant to calm wild beasts. The Kralith ignored them all. When one got too close, it growled a deep, angry sound that made birds fly from the trees. The leader stepped forward, holding a chain. He tried to throw it around the beast's neck, but the Kralith lunged, jaws open wide. The man fell backward in terror, his spear forgotten. Before the beast could strike, Jake called out. "Shadow," he said gently. "It's all right." The Kralith stopped, breathing hard, its muscles tense. Then it turned and walked back to Jake, calm again. The warriors stood frozen, unable to speak. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. The beast had listened, but only to the human. Sira stepped between them and Jake, her voice sharp. "He didn't use tricks, didn't use force," she said. "He earned its trust." The warriors returned to the village in silence, carrying no chains, no victory, only questions. That night, Jake sat by the fire with Sira and the beast. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. "I didn't want to prove anything," he said. "I just wanted peace." Sira looked at the Kralith lying beside him, eyes glowing softly in the firelight. "It trusts you more than anyone I've ever seen," she whispered. Jake nodded, placing his hand gently on the beast's head. "I don't own it," he said. "It's not mine." In the quiet that followed, Sira realized something deeper. The beast wasn't protecting Jake because it had to. It was staying because it wanted to, and Jake, for all his strength and pain, never treated the beast like a servant. He treated it like a friend, like an equal. Far away in the jungle, something stirred, eyes blinked open in the dark, old eyes full of hunger and hate. The balance had shifted. The bond between human and predator had been seen, and not all creatures welcomed the change. As the fire cracked and the stars blinked above, Jake felt a chill move through the night air. Something was coming, something that would not be tamed. The jungle was too quiet. Birds no longer sang. Leaves did not rustle. Even the wind seemed afraid to pass through. Jake felt it first, a strange pressure in the air, like something watching him from deep shadows. Shadow, the Kralith, stood up without a sound, its ears twitching, nose rising toward the wind. Sira stepped closer to Jake, her hand moving toward her blade. She didn't need to speak. She felt it too. Something old was coming. Something angry from the darkest trees. Shapes began to move, not one, not two, but many. Red eyes blinked from all directions, low growls rising like thunder beneath the ground. More Kralith, larger than Shadow, covered in scars, bones tied to their limbs like trophies. They were not calm, not curious, they were hunting. Shadow moved in front of Jake, his body still but ready. The pack circled slowly, their growls low and cruel. One of them stepped forward, its face torn from old battles, its left eye milky white. It looked at Shadow, then at Jake, and let out a long, sharp roar. The sound was a challenge, a command, a warning. Sira gripped her blade tighter. "They're not here to talk," she whispered. Shadow didn't roar back. He stood tall, breathing steady, then stepped forward between Jake and the others. His head bowed low, not in fear, but in respect. Then he looked back at Jake for a moment, as if asking permission. Jake gave a small nod. Even though he didn't fully understand, Shadow turned and walked toward the scarred leader, stopping just inches away. The two beasts stared at each other. Then suddenly they attacked, claws flashing, jaws snapping. It was like a storm exploding, the jungle shaking with the violence. Jake and Sira backed away fast, hiding behind a thick tree. Blood flew, teeth broke, the ground tore under their weight. But Shadow didn't fall. He fought harder than ever. Not for territory, but for something greater. The other Kralith watched silently, waiting, judging. This was not just a fight, it was a test. Shadow bit down hard into the leader's shoulder, forcing it to the ground. He roared, not in rage but in warning. The leader rolled to its side, gasping, beaten, but alive. The pack looked at Shadow, then slowly bowed their heads. One by one, they backed away into the jungle. Shadow returned to Jake, his fur torn, his breathing heavy. He had won, but not by killing. He had shown dominance without destroying his own kind. And the others had accepted it. Jake stepped forward and knelt beside him, pressing cloth to the bleeding shoulder. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. Shadow gave a quiet growl. Leaning into the touch, Sira stared at the jungle, where the others had vanished. "They came to test him," she said. "Not you." Jake looked up, confused. "He proved he was not just a pet," she explained. "He proved he was one of them, but different. He didn't betray his nature, but he didn't follow theirs either." That night, they camped beside a dying fire. Jake kept watch while Shadow slept. He could still hear the growls from the dark, faint but far. Sira sat beside him, her voice quiet. "Do you know what this means?" Jake shook his head. "The jungle has a new voice now," she said, "and it listens to you. But that also means others will come. Not beasts," she added, "but people, kings, hunters, thieves. They will want to own what you've built." Jake stared into the fire. "I didn't build anything," he said. "I just treated him like he mattered." Sira smiled slightly, but it faded fast. "Kindness changes more than weapons," she said, "but it also invites danger. Far away, beyond the jungle, ships landed quietly on rocky hills. They belonged to no tribe, no council, no law. They had tracked the beast signal, curious about the whispers. One of them stepped out, cloaked in black armor, eyes cold and sharp. He looked at the jungle and smiled. "If it obeys one human," he said, "it will obey another." Jake didn't know it yet, but the real danger wasn't claws or teeth. It was greed, and it was already here. Night fell heavy over the city, but no one slept. The skies above flickered with warning lights, and the walls hummed with energy shields. Everyone had heard the news. More beasts were seen near the jungle edge. Not just one, not just two, but many. Some called them monsters. Others whispered a different word. Guardians. The council prepared for war. They brought out machines long buried, weapons locked away since the old wars. Flying drones circled above the towers, their red lights blinking like angry eyes. But inside those walls, not everyone supported the fight. Sela moved through the narrow streets with her hood low and her heart racing. She had allies now, young ones, old ones, workers, scoutspeople, who believed her. They had seen the carvings, heard the beast obey the human. They knew the truth wasn't a story anymore. It was real, and it was coming. Jack stood at the border where forest met metal. Gorak sat beside him, calm but watching. Behind them, the second beast, older, slower, but no less strong, waited in silence. In the distance, more shapes moved between trees, slow and steady. The jungle had answered Jack's call. He had no army, no banner, no flag, only trust. That trust had brought the predators together, and they weren't just waiting, they were ready. Sela arrived with a small group carrying supplies. Maps and stolen codes. She handed Jack a small chip, glowing faintly. "This will shut down the outer gates," she said. "But once we're in, there's no turning back." Jack nodded. "I don't plan on turning back." Far above, the city's main tower lit up, the high speaker's voice filling the air through loudspeakers. "Attention, citizens. The jungle is rising against us, and a human is leading them. We will protect our way of life. We will not bow to beasts." But many listening didn't feel safe. They looked to the jungle, then to their children, then to the sky, and they wondered, what if the council had been lying all along? The gates opened with a soft click, power lines shorting out just long enough. Jack stepped forward, not sneaking, not hiding. The beasts followed behind him, slowly, like shadows rising from the earth. No one spoke. The city watched, stunned, as the creatures entered without blood, without fire. Gorak stopped in the middle of the main square and sat, calm and proud. The people didn't scream, they watched, waiting for something they didn't understand. The high speaker arrived with soldiers, weapons charged, faces cold. He stepped forward and pointed straight at Jack. "You bring them here like pets," he shouted. "Do you think this proves something?" Jack didn't blink. "They came on their own," he said. "Because the truth is older than your lies." The speaker raised his hand, the signal to fire. But before anyone could move, the ground shook. A slow, heavy thud rolled through the air. Then another. The final guardian had arrived. It stepped into the city like a mountain walking, taller than any tower. Its body was marked with scars, its back covered in vines and stones. It looked down at the city not with rage, but with sadness, like it remembered something beautiful that had been broken. The speaker shouted again, but no one listened, not even his own guards. Weapons dropped one by one. The beasts didn't roar, didn't growl. They waited, silent. Jack walked forward alone, past the guards, past the speaker. He turned to the crowd. "You feared what you didn't understand," he said, "but they never wanted war." Sela joined him, her voice clear and strong. "These creatures protected the first humans who came here. They remember us, even if we forgot them." A child stepped forward from the crowd and walked up to Gorak. The beast looked down and slowly lowered its head. The child touched its face and smiled. No one moved, no one breathed. The speaker dropped his hand, shaking with anger. But no one stood with him anymore. That night, the lights in the city dimmed. Not from fear, but from understanding. The jungle and the steel had met. And for the first time, there was no blood. But peace was not yet won. Far beyond the planet, something had been watching. A signal had been sent from the speaker's tower. A message not meant for the people, not even for the beasts, but for something else, something coming. The stars above the planet blinked like cold eyes. One of them moved, then another. Not stars at all, but ships. Dark shapes drifted across space, silent and heavy, drawn by a signal that should have never been sent. It came from the tower, from the speaker's hand, a final act of pride, a call for help not to allies, but to something older, something worse. Back on the ground, the city had changed. Children played near Gorak's feet. Traders offered food to Jack and Sela. The beasts rested in the open, eyes watching but calm. No one ran, no one screamed. The people had accepted the truth. But Jack knew it wouldn't last. He stood on the edge of the cliffs with Sela, watching the night sky. "They're coming," he said. Sela looked up, her heart heavy. "Who?" Jack didn't answer right away. "The ones who broke the bond long ago," he whispered. "The ones who made us forget. Sela didn't understand, not fully. But she saw the look in his eyes. It wasn't fear, it was memory. The next morning, the sky turned red. Not with sunrise, but with fire. The first ship entered the atmosphere without sound. Then another, and another. They didn't speak, didn't send warnings. They just hovered above the land, and then they began to burn the trees. The jungle screamed, roots twisted, vines thrashed. The beasts howled, not in rage but in pain. They knew this fire. They had felt it before, in another age, under another sky. Jack ran toward the flames with Gorak beside him. The others followed one by one. The predators raced to defend their home, not for power, not for humans, but for the land itself. The ships sent down machines, tall, sharp, and made for killing. They fired at everything that moved. Metal claws tearing through wood and beast. But this time, the beasts were not alone. The people stood beside them, hunters, farmers, builders, each one with blades, ropes, and fire of their own. Sela led the charge from the south gate, her voice louder than the machines. Jack fought beside Gorak, using no weapon, only the strange device that glowed on his wrist. It connected to the jungle itself. Calling out with sound and rhythm, the ground moved with him. Roots reaching up to block enemy fire, but it wasn't enough. One of the ancient beasts, the second one that had joined them, fell. Its body crashed into the trees, blood dark and thick. The earth shook with sorrow. Jack ran to it, dropped to his knees, and touched its face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The beast blinked once, then went still. Sela stood beside him, her face streaked with ash. "They won't stop," she said. "They'll burn it all." Jack looked at the sky, the ships, the smoke. "Then we give them something they can't destroy." He turned to Gorak, who stood tall despite the fire. "Are you ready?" he asked. The beast growled softly and lowered its head. Jack climbed onto Gorak's back. It was the moment from the carvings, the lost memory brought back to life. The human and the beast, not riding into war, but into truth. He raced up the hills, toward the tallest cliff. He held the device high, sending one last pulse through the jungle. Not a call to fight, but a call to remember. Every beast stopped. Every tree turned. The fire paused. Even the machines hesitated, confused from the ground. Light rose green and gold, wrapping around roots, rocks, and bones. The jungle responded. Not with violence, but with memory. It showed the invaders what they had forgotten: images of the first bonds, the first trust, a world where man and nature had walked side by side. The ships above flickered. Some turned, confused. Some paused. One exploded, not from weapons, but from something inside rejecting the command. Not all machines were blind. Not all memories could be erased. The last of the attackers retreated into the sky. Broken and silent, the fires died and the air became still again. Gorak stood on the cliff, Jack still on its back, both bathed in fading light. Below them, the people and the beasts waited. Silent, Sela stepped forward, her voice soft. "They won't come again," Jack nodded. "Not while they remember." The jungle healed slowly, but it healed. The people built new homes, not to control nature, but to live with it. Gorak became more than a legend. He became a symbol of what was possible. And when children asked how a human tamed the apex predator, Sela would always smile and say, "He didn't tame a child. He listened."